So he put his foot behind, kicked our leg away and put his hand on the opposite shoulder and pushed, and of course down they went. When he came to me, I thought, oh, hang this for a joke, and I put all my weight onto the other foot, and he went over. Well, that was the worst thing that I could have done. He got up and he laid into me with his rifle butt and his boots, but I rolled up into a little ball and no bones broken. Anyhow, we were taken from there to Moa, to a playing field, and there we learnt the first word of Japanese. That was benjo, that's the toilet. And there they brought in two Dutch airmen. They'd been shot down in flames. One had to be, one was very badly burnt. The other one was his sergeant, and he was dragging him in. Anyhow, we spent the night there. The next night we were taken back to Guimas, and we were put in a house there. It was a good quality house. Now by now our tongues were just about swelling from thirst. This house had a flush toilet, and as well as using it for the purpose that it was designed, we flushed it. How to get the water up to our mouth, so we caught the water in our cupped hands and drank it. And here we were taken into a room one by one to be questioned by a Japanese officer. He spoke very good English. When it came my turn, I went into the room and I observed that there was an armed guard on both sides of the door with his fixed bayonet, and he said to me, what is your name? And I told him my name, and I said, that's all I have to tell you is my name and number under the Geneva Convention. He said, but Japan didn't sign the Geneva Convention, so that's out. Now he said, I want you to tell me the disposition of troops. Now, me being a runner, I knew where all the troops were, and I feared that he would get it out of me where they were to their detriment. So he said, do you call your officer sir? I said, yes, I do. Well, he said, I'm an officer, and he said, I'd like you to call me sir. And I said, yes, sir. Now he said, I have ways and means of making you tell me the questions I ask you. Again, he said, can you tell me the disposition of troops? And I fobbed him off a bit. So then he called his two guards. All the time I'm standing at Kiotski, he called the two guards over and they put their bayonets up under their chin. And I thought to myself, well, I've got to do something in a hurry. And I looked up on the wall and there was a map of Malaya. And I said, sir, I can tell you all the disposition of all the troops around the town of Seremban. And I could see the look come over him. I've got him. I knew that he'd taken Seremban 10 days before. He looked up at the map, found Seremban, dismissed. So I got out of that one. And again, I was in fear of losing my life. Eventually we were taken out underneath a tree, and there the most terrible smell. Jan, the junior Dutchman, who spoke very good English, probably better than we because he'd been taught English, and he said, gentlemen, I've shit myself. And that smell, it didn't matter what colour of your uniform or what nationality you were, everybody smelled the same, and that smell hung with me for the best part of 4 years that I was a prisoner. Then we were taken on, put on a bus, taken to Kuala Lumpur. We went round, the guard asked us, had any of us been to Kuala Lumpur, and none of us had, so we went first of all to the military barracks, the Department of Agriculture, looking for a big house. Two or three institutions where they had big buildings, and it wasn't any of them. So eventually we went past the town hall of Kuala Lumpur, and outside the town hall were a row of poles, all with a human head on them. We were told later that they were the officials who wouldn't cooperate with them. Eventually we came to the big house, and the big house of course was Pudu Jail. Now the Pudu Jail, Malaya was a British colony, the British controlled the jails, and the Japanese on their march south had committed a couple of massacres. They feared that they would execute all the civilian prisoners. So they opened the gates, let them all run free, and there was a ready-made prisoner of war camp. Now, Poodoo Jail, when we entered it, we were around about 11, and there were a few others, so I always say I was one of the first 30. Probably less, but so nobody can call me a liar, I say the first 30. But they had all the 2nd Battalion, the Argylls and Southern Highlanders from Jitra and Crow there. We were in this, we were put in the women's section of the jail, which was an area of about 20 metres by 20 metres, and eventually there were 600 men in there. And there the conditions were just shocking. Did I say the first word we learned of is the benjo, the toilet? So the feeding point was about 2 metres away from the benjo, like just open to the disease.
We've got the map there. Would you like to orient us on the outline of Poodoo Jail, Charles?
Now here was the jail itself was a 3-storey bluestone building. It was built in the shape of an X with an elongated centre, but it's this little area up here that we're talking about now. This was the female portion of the jail, and it was I think about 20 metres by 20 metres with a bit cut off there. So we were all in a state of despair. There was no organisation, no order, with the exception of every night Sergeant Major McTavish from the 2nd Battalion of the Argylls called the roll. Then must have been around March, about the middle of March, into the camp marched Captain, we always called him Roaring Reg Newton. Reg Newton was a senior captain in the 2nd 19th Battalion, and within a few days he had a little bit of law and order organised into the Australians. There were several officers there, and he had appointed them a platoon, and they had to be responsible for them, so he brought back a little bit of order into the camp. And he was a mighty soldier. Now, after about 10 weeks, now they had given us absolutely nothing to, well, there was one little point about humour. Humour was quite a big factor in the Australians. Now along here there was a skillion, and we slept along this skillion, shoulder to shoulder. At the head of the stairs, and there were 22 steps to this stairs, at the head of the stairs was a guard, and if you wanted to, by now we were all inflicted with diarrhoea or dysentery, and you had to go to the guard, bow and say benjo. It came time for me to go, and I bowed, said benjo, and he wouldn't let me go. And I did it 3 times, but anyhow with diarrhoea and dysentery, the human body has no control over them, so I pooed my pants. Went down the stairs,